Hey guys, a long time ago, I did a video covering various plot holes in Charmed, and as I noticed more and more, that video turned into a bit of a series, but turns out there were a lot more plot holes than I thought, and that series was kind of all over the place anyway, so rather than trying to sort out that mess, I thought it might be better to just start from the very beginning, going over the entire series with a fine-tooth comb and covering each and every plot hole I could find, starting with the plot holes of Season 1. In the first episode of the series, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Piper and Phoebe are talking in the bedroom, and Piper says that she didn't tell Prue Phoebe was coming home because she might change the locks.
Why didn't you tell Prue I was coming back?
And risk her changing the locks? I don't think so.
Which implies that Phoebe had a key to the house, so it doesn't make sense why she used the hidden key to get in instead of just using her own.
Found the hiding key.
There's also a line where Piper says,
We don't know that. We've lived in this house for months now, and we've never been able to get that attic door open.
which doesn't really make sense because other than when they all moved out for a couple months after Grams died, the sisters have spent their whole lives in the house, and to their knowledge, the attic has always been inaccessible.
Piper thinks that Grams was up in the attic before she died.
That's not possible. She always told us that the attic was sealed off.
So not being able to get in there shouldn't be new information to them. And then the next morning, Piper says,
And we have a cousin who's a drunk, an aunt who's manic, and a father who's invisible.
but other than referring to their absentee father, Victor, as invisible, the rest of the statement doesn't really make sense because we never heard anything about Victor's family in the show, so it doesn't seem likely that they're talking about their dad's side, and as for their mother Patty, she was an only child, so it's impossible for them to have an aunt or a cousin on her side. I mean, I guess they could be talking about people they consider to be aunts and cousins, like Aunt Gail, but it does feel like the show was trying to establish an extended family that just never really came into play. Also, the show establishes that warlocks are not supposed to be able to bleed,
Well, just prick them. Warlocks don't bleed, so if there's no blood, you got your answer.
but Jeremy does. Ooh, and that was all just the first episode. I didn't really catch any plot holes in the second, but in the third episode, Thank You for Not Morphing, Victor is billed as Victor Hallowell in this episode, but the name Hallowell turns out to be Graham's married name.
Mrs. Hallowell. The women keep their names in this family.
So it doesn't really make sense for Victor to have his mother-in-law's married name. It's later on changed to Jones, before finally settling on Bennett. Then when the sisters are talking about Victor's sudden reappearance in their lives, they say,
But when Mom dies, he's nowhere to be found?
You knew him, we didn't.
both of these statements are retconned in multiple episodes later on, including We All Scream for Ice Cream and Sympathy for the Demon, showing that Victor actually remained in their lives for quite some time following their mother's death. Also, one of the shapeshifters is able to pick up and carry the Book of Shadows, which shouldn't be possible as evil isn't supposed to be able to touch the book. In the fourth episode, Dead Man Dating, when Prue finds Andy meeting with his ex-wife, she says,
Trudeau. Sister?
No, actually.
Wife.
but Prue has known Andy since they were children, so she would have already known that he had a sister named Susan. Then in Dream Sorcerer, it stated that Prue is 27,
I got a 27-year-old female.
but she's actually 28 and had just celebrated her 28th birthday in the previous episode, Dead Man Dating. I know that happened because the episodes were aired out of the order they were produced in, but in the context of the show, it's a plot hole. And speaking of plot holes, when Phoebe and Piper are getting ready to cast a spell to find a lover, they mention that,
We're lucky. If we were men looking for women, the spell requires putting a piece of honey cake in a sweaty armpit for days.
but the show has made a point of establishing that there are no males in the Warren line.
The craft is a chick thing, Prue. It's passed on down through the female line.
I'm still surprised that you had a boy.
Well, 50-50 chance.
Not in our family. 300 years and not a male in the bunch. We've never had a male witch.
So it makes no sense for there to be a spell specifically for males in the Warren family Book of Shadows. In the sixth episode, The Wedding from Hell, it said that Hecate comes to Earth once every 200 years.
She comes to Earth every 200 years.
And obviously 1998 is that year. But then they also established that she was around 20 years ago because that's when she made the deal with Grace.
My God, you haven't aged in 20 years.
In The Fourth Sister, it's shown that the sister's address is 7571 Prescott Street, but in every other episode of the show, even the original unaired pilot, it has always been 1329 Prescott Street, not 7571. Then, in The Truth Is Out There and It Hurts, Prue casts a truth spell that results in the sisters having no choice but to speak the truth.
But that also means if we get asked a question, we have to answer with the truth.
But when Prue is asked who the girl by the elevator was, she lies when she should have had no choice but to tell the truth.
The two of you were over by the elevators.
I don't remember.
Then at the end of the episode, Prue waits outside of Andy's apartment to speak with him, but in the previous episode, The Fourth Sister, it was shown that Andy actually lives in a house, not an apartment. In the 9th episode, The Witch is Back, Matthew breaks the window in Prue's office and jumps out, and when Prue originally went to interview for the position at Buckland's, Rex asked if she was working in the auction house upstairs.
You work at the auction house upstairs?
Which is up on the 12th floor, which is also the highest floor. And when Andy and Daryl are investigating what happened with the window, Andy confirms that Prue's office is on the 12th floor.
That's a 10-story drop, sir. 12.
I already know. It's Prue's.
But in the wide shots of the episode, we can see that there are a lot more floors above Prue's office, which shouldn't be possible because her office is on what is supposed to be the highest floor. And then we know that Melinda is the one who started the Book of Shadows.
This book is your connection, and it began with me.
But in the front page of the book, it says that it was started in 1693, and in this episode we learn that Melinda was burned at the stake a year before that in 1692, so it wouldn't have been possible for her to start the book a year after the fact. And I know I already mentioned this in the Rex and Hannah video, but when Andy looks into Rex and Hannah's background in Wicca Envy, he sees that the real Rex and Hannah are both dead and their case is an open homicide. So it makes no sense why the imposters were able to assume the identities of two people who were recently found dead and were the subjects of an open homicide investigation. Also, this database establishes that Rex and Hannah were apparently 22 and 24 years old at the time of their deaths, and not only are the real Rex and Hannah older than that, but even their imposters were older than that. And in Feats of Clay, when Clay saves Phoebe from the snake, she says,
Selfless act.
Just like the Book of Shadows said.
but it was actually Prue who said that, not the Book of Shadows.
The guardian punishes the greedy, so maybe if Clay does something selfless, it'll even the score.
I didn't really notice any in the Wendigo, but in the episode after that, From Fear to Eternity, there were actually a few mistakes, like how Phoebe and Prue both wrote a completely random address instead of writing 1329 Prescott Street on the mailing list in the beginning of the episode. Then, Prue said she gave Phoebe the gray suit as an early birthday present.
Wait, you gave her that outfit?
Yeah, it was an early birthday present.
But this episode aired in February, and Phoebe's birthday isn't until November. So either it's a really early birthday present, or it's a plot hole. Also, we know that Piper met Jeremy at the hospital when Grams passed away.
We met at the hospital cafeteria the day Grams was admitted.
So I've waited 6 months for this. Ever since Grams went to the hospital.
And in this episode, Piper says that she met Jeremy on Friday the 13th.
I met Jeremy on Friday the 13th.
But Grams passed away on March 5th, 1998, which was a Thursday, so Piper could not have met Jeremy on Friday the 13th, although this date is just a week before an actual Friday the 13th. And then, it's established that Barbas can only appear once every 1300 years.
The demon of fear appears once every 1300 years on Friday the 13th.
So that means the last time he would have been out and about was about the year 698. So Barbara shouldn't know anything about how to work a phone,
I'm at 3112 Napa Street.
what a plane is,
I flew in from LA just to see this house.
or have such a modern looking outfit. And in Secrets and Guys, Leo implies that white lighters are supposed to be a secret,
You were never supposed to find out I screwed up and got caught.
but we've seen several examples of how they're actually pretty common knowledge.
I just got a call from a charge and her powers are down too.
The white lighters are putting on a light show.
Also, white lighters are supposed to be able to sense their charges unless they've been cloaked or are in another dimension.
I can't get a read on her. Wherever she is, her heart's not beating.
But in this episode, Leo couldn't sense Prue or Max, although neither one of them were cloaked or in a different dimension.
No, I can't reach either Max or Prue telepathically.
Then in Is There a Woogie in the House? It's mentioned at the beginning of the episode that the sisters are planning to host Prue's boss and several important clients from Buckland's at the manor that night.
This is the final guest list for tonight. All important clients to me, to Buckland's, and therefore to you. At the top of the list,
Professor Whittlesey, didn't she just buy the Calder?
But it turns out that the only client attending the dinner party was Professor Whittlesey, along with Prue's boss Claire, and Josh being added in at the last minute.
Claire, I will be bringing a guest if that's all right. Of course. Prue, tonight's going to be 5+1.
So it doesn't really make sense why they tried to make it sound like there was a list of clients coming when it was actually just one. Then, in which Prue is it anyway? First, it makes no sense to me why Piper and Phoebe would have this statue moved all the way across town and into the manor by Phoebe's 8 bouncer friends, then tell Prue,
And one day,
You can move it into the basement, but until then, suffer.
when they could have just had those same friends put it in the basement in the first place. Then, Prue says that they don't have casual day at Buckland's,
Why are you dressed up?
Because they don't have casual day at Buckland's.
But that's something the show is very inconsistent on because sometimes they'll have Prue dress for the office and sometimes they don't. Also, it makes no sense why he killed Helena instead of Blue Prue. He knew by that point that she was a clone and that she was there all by herself, so wouldn't have had the power to stop him.
You're not the real Prue Halliwell. Any woman smart enough to clone herself would not make the mistake of confronting me here. So then you're the last clone.
So there is no reason he should have or would have thrown the sword at Helena instead of Prue. Especially since if he was willing to sacrifice Helena anyway, then it makes much more sense to just go directly for the threat, especially since we saw that he threw his sword so fast that Prue didn't even have time to react and likely wouldn't have had a chance to make good on her threat to hurt Helena if he had just gone for her in the first place. Then, at the end of the episode, the date of birth listed on Prue's fingerprint chart is February 16th, 1972, even though the show has already established that her birthday is October 28th, 1970. Now let's dive into the absolute novel that are the plot holes I noticed in that 70s episode. Starting with, in the beginning of the episode, Piper says that Graham's friend Nicholas comes every year to give her flowers.
Grandma's little friend comes every year, same day, same time, says, you know, the flowers are from a secret admirer.
But the thing is, we've seen how fiercely protective Grams is of her family.
Leave them alone.
And Grams went crazy when she found out. Come to think of it, that guy disappeared not too long after that. You don't suppose Grams...
So there is no way she would have tolerated Nicholas, a warlock who was an obvious threat to her granddaughters, coming to her home once a year, every year, just circling around them like a vulture.
Making lazy circles in the sky.
She would have done something about it, and she would not have let him keep that ring. And speaking of that ring, how did the sisters go from having their organs on the verge of overheating as their blood literally boiled to completely fine the next scene? When the ring was used on Patty, she pretty much passed out, and when Nicholas used the ring on Prue in season 2, she actually did pass out. So yeah, there's just no way they would recover from borderline hyperthermia in all of 2 seconds. And then, Phoebe finds the spell to unbind a bond in no time at all.
Why would Mom make a deal like that?
More importantly, what are we gonna do?
Wait, I think I found a spell.
And it's just really odd how sometimes the show will have the sisters struggle to find what they're looking for in the book, to the point of staying up all night trying to find it.
Is that the sword?
Yeah, I drew it from memory. Unfortunately, I can't find it in the Book of Shadows yet.
I wish that thing had an index.
And then sometimes they open it and it's conveniently right there. Anyway, after that, the sisters travel back in time to March 24th, 1975, meaning that Prue, who was born in October 1970, should have been 4 going on 5, and Piper, who was born in August 1972, should have been 2 going on 3. But the actresses that portrayed them were 6 and 7 at the time, so both sisters appear to be a few years older than they actually are. And then, Prue shows her sisters that they've gone back in time by pointing out that there are things in the attic that they got rid of years ago.
Not just like always. You have a black light, a typewriter, 8-track tapes, and a pet rock. I mean, we got rid of this stuff years ago, remember?
But remember, up until the night they got their powers, the sisters had always believed the attic was sealed off.
She always told us that the attic was sealed off.
So they couldn't have gotten rid of the stuff that was in the attic years ago because up until last year they'd never even been in there before. Also, this scene.
Wait, I thought you said Mom's power was to freeze time.
It is.
Up until the sisters received their powers, they had no idea that anyone in their family was a witch.
Grams wasn't a witch, and as far as we know, neither was Mom.
So how would Prue know that Patty's power was to freeze time? If they had read it in the Book of Shadows, wouldn't Phoebe just say that I thought the Book of Shadows said Mom's power was to freeze time? Not Prue? Then Grams erases little Andy's memory so he won't remember Piper using magic in front of him, but somehow he's able to remember that the, quote, strange ladies took them, even though the 2 events happened together, so you would think that memory would have been erased along with his memory of magic. And neither Grams nor little Piper's powers should have worked on the sisters, because their powers are not supposed to work on good witches.
You guys aren't frozen?
Guess it doesn't work on witches.
You didn't freeze.
It's because I'm a witch, too.
She's frozen.
Good.
No. Remember, our powers don't work on good witches?
Even if they don't have their powers.
Good witches don't freeze!
And Prue states in the episode that she remembers Patty working at the restaurant because she would always come home smelling like burgers.
She used to come home late at night, and she would kiss me, and she always smelled like burgers.
So if she was old enough to remember that, she should have been old enough to remember having her powers in the first place. It's possible that Grams intervened with a spell of some sort, but I don't remember that ever being established in the show. I could be wrong, but the show really does have a bad habit of going back and forth on what the sisters do and do not remember about their childhood. Anyway, also...
But we're actually your cousins. I'm out of town.
Again, Patty is an only child, and as far as we know, she has no cousins, so she should have immediately known they were full of it. And Rams never had a sister, so unless Patty is talking about a great aunt or something in this scene,
I must have named you after my favorite aunt.
then it's yet another plot hole. And the sisters take their younger selves to a public park and have them use their powers out in broad daylight where anyone could see, which should have resulted in magical exposure. And speaking of that scene, why did Grams call the cops anyway? As far as she knew, her granddaughters had been kidnapped by 3 warlocks.
Did you see what the warlocks look like? Because I saw them, all 3 of them, here. And one of them had a hold of Prudence.
What would the police have been able to do about it if that were true? It would have made a lot more sense, both lore-wise and character-wise, if she and Patty had scryed for the sisters' location and went after them themselves rather than calling the cops and hoping for the best. Then, Patty tells the sisters that she blessed the ring in hopes of buying time to see if Grams could help.
I bought us some time in the hopes that Grams could help us.
But the thing is, they never did. The whole reason the sisters had to come back in time in the first place was because Grams and Patty never tried to unbless the ring or vanquish Nicholas, even though he's only immune to their magic if he's actively wearing the ring, which he didn't all in time, and definitely didn't when he came to the manor every year because he was testing to see if the sisters had their powers yet. So, it's not like Grams and Patty never had the chance to think of something, they just didn't do it, which makes no sense. I like that episode, but there are so many problems with it. So moving on to when bad warlocks turn good. Again, warlocks are not supposed to be able to bleed, but much like Jeremy, the Rowe brothers do. Then, and out of sight, after David is kidnapped, Phoebe mentions that another boy had been kidnapped just the day before in the exact same spot.
An inspector told me that another boy disappeared yesterday in the exact same spot.
So my question is, why was there no evidence of that? No crime scene tape, no police presence, no search parties, just nothing? Especially when there's such a huge response to David's disappearance, but nothing whatsoever for the boy that had gone missing in the same spot just the day before? Yeah, no. I think it would have made a lot more sense if David had been the first boy to go missing in 20 years and then Phoebe had a premonition that led her to Brent, and that's how they figured out the pattern, and that it was the Grimlocks that were behind it. Anyway, in The Power of Two, Phoebe acts surprised that she was able to call a premonition at will.
I've been practicing how to call a premonition, and I did it. I saw a future event on command.
But in the 4th episode of the season, Dead Man Dating, Phoebe worked as a psychic where she was able to regularly use her power at will to see her clients' features.
In a large room with lots of other people.
It's a Weight Watchers meeting.
Then later on, Phoebe's going off on Prue and says,
It's coming from the fact that I know that you're really pissed because I didn't do the grocery shopping or pick up your dry cleaning or whatever else you put on that stupid list.
But it was actually Piper that made that list, not Prue.
I am so behind. I didn't go shopping or pay the bills or call the cable guy or cancel my hair appointment.
And at the end of the episode, Phoebe and Prue are bringing their shopping into the kitchen from the laundry room area, but that area is at the back of the house, whereas the driveway is at the front, which is why every other time we see them bring home shopping, they're coming through the front door. And also, they act surprised to see Piper home early.
Hi. Piper. Yay. I thought you weren't coming back till tomorrow.
I took an earlier flight.
But Piper arrived home around the exact same time they did, and when you consider the layout of the house, there should have been no reason they wouldn't have seen her coming in when they were loading up the shopping and carrying it inside. And then, the show has long established that you should never use your powers in public because of the dangers of magical exposure.
Powers are supposed to be a secret, not a marketable job skill.
And of all people, Whitelighters and Elders supposedly take this very seriously.
Now you know why the Elders have always been highly concerned about exposure.
But in Love Hurts, Leo orbs to Daisy right in the middle of this crowded area.
It's alright, Daisy.
And then there's a whole bunch of magic going on where everyone can see, but somehow nobody notices.
You were seen by no less than 7 muggles. Do you have any idea how serious this is?
And then Leo tells the sisters not to touch the arrow because it's poisoned.
We have to get the arrow out.
No, don't touch it. It's tipped with poison.
But later on, it's established that Darklighter arrows are only poisonous to Whitelighters.
It's poisonous to you too.
Everyone with Whitelighter blood, back up.
So there was no reason the sisters wouldn't have been able to touch the arrow. And then, finally, the season 1 finale, deja vu all over again. And in the beginning of this episode, Rodriguez is looking through photos of the sisters, but the thing is, these photos are the same ones Rex was showing Matthew in the witch's back. So, how does Rodriguez have those exact same photos even though as far as we know, he's been working alone and found the sisters through Andy, not another warlock or demon?
I posed as a cop because I believe one was covering for them. And I was right, he was. That's how I found them.
And then on the final day, Rodriguez fires again in the middle of a shopping area and nobody reacts. Which would definitely have drawn some attention, at least from the store owner, but you know.
Who makes up these cockamamie rules?
And that was the last plot hole that I noticed of season 1. Oh my gosh. I love Charmed. Always have, always will. But the plot holes in this show are just... I don't even know what to say. And these are just the ones I noticed. I'm sure there are so many more that I didn't pick up on, and probably many, many more in the other seasons as well. I already have a fair few written down, but if there are any you remember from season 2, please let me know and I will make sure to include them in the season 2 compilation. With that being said, my voice is practically gone. So I'll just say thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye!